So here we are. We are now in our final week. We're done. By the way, I have my window open and I can hear cars going. I don't know if you can. Anyways, here we are. We are done, and wow, we covered so much. By looking at so many of your comments, I'm seeing many of you are really getting a taste for the first time of a world that maybe was way out of your range of perspective. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to get you exposed to all these things going on in the world. And here we are, since I was since our last announcement. Well, where are we at? We have massive intensification of tensions between North Korea and the U.S. president, and we have this terrible, one could say, terrorist incident, this clash that just recently took place in Virginia, Charlottesville. So, what do we do with all this? I mean, and then we're looking at the racial tensions and things going on in Europe, and we're seeing where we're at here. We're looking at how the Korean War never ended, and you know, we studied that in this class. When you think about it, okay, if you're looking at everything going on in the world, it's mainly unresolved issues, right? You know, there's a scripture in the Bible: don't let the sun set in a provoked state. Well, the sun has set in many times and in many provoked states for the state of affairs in the world. So, you look at Korea. Korea is stuck in time. The North and the South, but especially the North. You know, like at some point, this is going to have to get resolved. And how is it going to get resolved? And just would a war that drags in China and Japan and South Korea with the U.S., would that be the right answer? That's a pretty dark path. The United States are massively disproportionately more powerful than North Korea. I think one could even argue that it's possible South Korea could actually handle itself well against North Korea. So the issue is not that North Korea is an actual threat to us, and I'm not sure. I mean, they might be able to hit Guam, but I mean, ultimately, you know, they could take. With weapons of mass destruction, anybody can hurt like a lot of people with one shot. Ultimately, that would be one shot, and that would be it. But is this what we want to see? And is that really going to be the right answer for the world? And what that would look like afterwards? Nah, it's a very grim thing. It's no good. And so we can only hope that will de-escalate. Look at U.S. intervention in Latin America. Remember we talked about that? Now, Maduro of Venezuela, I'm not going to defend him. I had sympathies for Hugo Chavez. I ain't going to lie. But Maduro, Venezuela's a mess. Now, but see, I haven't followed this as much as I usually used to do on Latin American politics. But what I can say is that when our president talks about a military intervention in Venezuela, I mean, is that the answer? Really? Okay. But these are things being talked about right now. So we have a lot going on. Actually, before I go and say a few more things about the state of the affairs of this world, many of you noticed that I gave a lot of work. And if you took the time to actually watch this announcement and have you been keeping up with all the work, it's very likely that you cannot take my test and get an A. Now listen, I don't do the math. I don't bother myself with that, okay? So, you need to look at your grade. If you think you can afford a 0 on the final, just write to me, say, hey Mr. Pollock, I want a 0, I'll give it to you. And then look at your grade, okay? I'm going to actually try to get your final grades in done by Friday. And I will make an announcement saying double check everybody before I send it to PiratesNet for its final form. Okay? So that's where we're at with that. If anybody right now thinks they're going to turn in a lot of late work and you haven't talked to me, you're in for a rude awakening. You don't just get to automatically drop in a bunch of late work. So if you are desperate and you want to do that, then you're going to need to call me and talk to me, and we're going to need to have a discussion, okay? I can't have a surprise grading where I grade a trillion other papers because all of a sudden some people wanted to turn in like 12 papers, okay? So, having said that, I do encourage you to call me if you're that person. You know, I'm not going to go off on you. We just need to have a talk about what's been going on. Okay. Now, this last thought on here with the racial tension here in the United States. It's real. It hasn't gone away. And you know, due to my own background my ex-wife is a black and Filipino, Haitian and Filipino. My daughter is Swedish, Scottish, Scots-Irish, German, British, mixed like me. So she always said that she likes the panda bear because it's like her, black, white, and Asian. And I'm a person, as a history major, I love Western civilization. I love European culture, and I feel very comfortable in my own skin as a white man of that descent, and I feel very honored to know any good human being from any place, and I find the history of the world fascinating, and everybody has something to be proud of and something maybe not to be so proud of in given societies, and I'm happy that my daughter can identify and enjoy all of the various cultures in which her genetic history comes from, right? But not everybody sees it that way. I mean, I have behind me here a U.S. flag, the Swedish flag there, and then the Scottish one over there. I've had a lot of thought over the years about what do I make of flags, of nationalism, of internationalism, of the ecology of the world. I love my country. I love people. I love the world. How do you translate any of like your thoughts about these things into something that's actually good and beneficial? I have many of my students are in the military. Some have been in the military. Some of my students have been police, and others have been harassed by police, and have a wide range of stories. So I get exposed to so much, and I look at America and I feel invested in this country, and I feel invested in the world. And I mean, look at what's happening. We have to come to terms with the fact that each civilization, each society has something we need to work on. Some people say that we're the best, and some people say we're the worst. I don't go by either one. And I don't think it's productive to think of yourself as the worst or the best. What it's productive to do is think of how you can be better and not ignore where things have went wrong. Right now in Africa, many elections took place, and many people feel they were not fair elections, and it exploded into violence. That has its own history based on things within Africa and outside forces of colonialism and favoritism given to certain tribes over others. That's problems that Africa has to go to resolve. Some of these things, there needs to be outsiders, not interpreting the problem. And again, these are things that people from within their own societies are going to need to address. We have a legacy of white supremacy, and that's not hyperbole. You couldn't live where we're living, California and Oregon. I live in Portland, Oregon. This was integrated along with California in the 19th century and took land from people that already lived here. How could the settlers justify taking land that already people lived on and having guns, unless you thought you were better than them, and that because you had better weapons and better fighting skills that you could, and that made it right? That's a type of supremacy that you see in yourself, right? And that white supremacy was really about seeing Western civilization and Christian civilization, even ironically, as something to justify that, along with slavery. Portland, Oregon here had black codes. It was the only free state that didn't allow blacks, that actually had racial discrimination laws, even though it didn't have slavery. So it wasn't something just in the South. And you know, right now, I live here in Portland, Oregon, as many of you know, but not all of you have known. We had a white supremacist kill and injure several people on a TriMet train that I take all the time myself. And you just start realizing that this is real. And you know, a lot of people are also having identity politics. There were two girls who, white girls, actually, one and ends up being partly Chinese, that had a burrito cart, and they got death threats because some people thought that white girls couldn't make burritos. And there was a lot of debate about that issue. Americans are really at a crossroads, like many other parts of the world. I think that what it's good to do right now is to really just reflect. Well, how do we want America to look? How do we want the rest of the world to look? If you are going to believe in separating, and you're going to be divisive, and we're going to want to remove lots of people or do this kind of stuff, I mean, the only ways to do these things are through violence. But how? I mean, I feel like there's just too much on the plate here to talk about. There's too many avenues to go down. What I just want to encourage you, no matter what side you take politically, is to just really ask yourselves, fundamentally, think about the idea that you have, your vision, and what would it look like if it could be implemented. And think about the consequences to what that would be if you could do that. And you got to own that. I, for one, believe that we have to have something to draw us together, but multiculturalism, it's going, for it to work, well, it has to work. If it doesn't work, we will have a violent society, and we will see that it will get bad. So it's too late if you don't think that we shouldn't have one. It's beyond that now. So how do we make this work? We're going to have to work on this together, see? Okay? So I wish all of you well, and sorry for taking so long, and I just hope that I just hope that we're going to be able to work this out. Either way, we're going to make our stands, and we've got to own up to the choices that we make or we don't make. Peace and blessings be upon you all, and keep in touch. Hope to see you again, and in good and great contexts.